a quorum there.
We have a quorum. but-
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is a work session for the city council, for the city of Trinidad. As you know, we don't make decisions, we don't vote. There's no discussion other than with staff and council. And there will be no decisions made at today's meeting. Item number 1 is introduction of new employees.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'd like to introduce Brody Trujillo. He's our newest employee that we hired. He's like, Kara calls it a boomerang employee. He would work here for us for 3.5 years, and then he left, and now we hired him back for the first part of June. He's back.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Happy to say Brody Trujillo, pretty much born and raised here. Well, yeah, 31 years. Worked here for 3.5 years. Got an opportunity to work in Midland. Took that, learned some stuff. Things kind of fell short, so I moved back and got lucky, got a job opportunity back with the gas department.
Okay, well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brody.
Thank you.
Good job.
Item number 2, boards and commission interviews. The only board application or board that we have an application for is for the Lodging Tax Advisory Board. The current members are Kyle Wagner and Joe Kozlowski. Kolowitz? I was close. And the applicants are Chris Miller, who is a county resident and registered voter, and also Eric Shepard, who is a city resident and is also registered to vote. I don't see Mr. Shepard here. Are we to interview Mr. Miller today?
Yes.
Okay.
You are.
Right. Come on up, Mr. Miller, and give us the 411.
As much as I know and remember, Mayor, Council, City staff, it's a pleasure to be up here again. At least 3 of the 4 of you know me just from the past. I sat on the original tourism board and then was reappointed by this council to the Lodging Tax Advisory Board. And then my term ran out in May, and I reapplied. I was encouraged by a longtime commissioner a long time ago to get involved because I have over 40 years of experience in tourism marketing, event marketing, management, and most of mine is the traditional. I do respect the digital advertising that's come out, but it's, in my opinion, only part of the mix that needs to be made. We, both boards ran schedules with local radio. We ran sometimes with out-of-market radio, and because of my expertise in marketing was primarily broadcast advertising, and with an emphasis on radio. I'm a copywriter. I do voiceover. I do the radio marketing for Main Street Live, and I've been doing for the previous board and the Lodging Tax Advisory Board. They voted on me handling and managing that. You get a whole lot more impact if you manage your radio correctly. Someone will attest to that. You can, just buy ads and let them do it for you, but when they're doing, 15 or 20 clients, it's not quite as focused. And so I do that, by using, creative copy, putting, important people on to talk about quality of life, and scheduling and when the spots run is also important. Things I learned, selling and buying radio. I've enjoyed working, with a variety of people on the boards, doing things for y'all with city staff. I am retired. I, left Texas and moved up here because I had fallen in love with Trinidad anyway, and I had built up so much knowledge and experience, and most of it successful. And what wasn't successful, I've learned, how to move the right way and to help people. And I think I've been an asset for the city in providing some of that, especially the non-digital, because that was coming in just as I was leaving, and I turned that over to younger staff. And it does have a good place, but it's got to be in the mix. But I enjoyed it and would like to continue doing it if y'all see the need to have an old man on the board. So.
You're just in the prime.
Yes, that's what I keep saying,
Yeah.
when I get somebody to help me stand up and stuff.
Aaron, do you have any questions of Mr. Miller?
Given that you have a really long background with the Tourism Board and Lodging Tax Advisory Board, I'm wondering, when there's a proposal in front of your board, how do you evaluate whether or not you think that proposal is worthwhile? Like, for instance, are there a set of criteria that you look at?
There is, as far as personally looking, do I think it's good or do I think it's bad? I can make that evaluation, but it's good to have a team. The last board before everybody left, we were developing a sheet, that had criteria on it, so each one could, evaluate the different areas, what it offered, what it was bringing to the community, whether it be quality of life for tourists, and we could do it as a team together after discussion. And, it's important to listen to other people. I have lots of ideas, but I've had people say things that might change my thoughts and ideas. So I think as a team, it works better.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Well, your resume speaks for itself. You've done a masterful job. You are always at the radio station. I see all the time for the last, how many years now? 6, at least.
6 or 7, yeah.
6 or 7. And I don't think you're going to have an issue balancing the board's responsibilities with your other commitments. So that's not going to be an issue, I don't believe. And I think you're the right fit for what needs to be done. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Thank you for your commitment and wanting to be reappointed onto this board. You pretty much kind of knocked out most of the questions in your intro speech. And I think everything has been asked. Commitments are still the same. You're able to do the twice a month meetings.
Oh yeah.
Okay. It's twice a month. That's pretty much all I have, and I appreciate your interest in our board and continuing the good work you've already been doing.
Thank you. And we met once.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't know if you remember when I was helping him or bothering him, I guess.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller, I'm sorry, Mr. Miller.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Well, I'm in trouble now.
Yes, you are. You've been on the board that has a problem keeping members. And so you've been through the flux, the issues that we have. Do you have any ideas or suggestions? Will you mentor if we get extra or other members of that board? And are you going to be able to calm the waters, so to speak?
I hope so. It depends on the person as you come in. It may work itself out. There were some different issues with some of the people, and hopefully those are resolved and it doesn't need to even be addressed. I kind of did the same thing when I was assigned to the Lodging Tax Advisory Board. They got off to a rough start, and I was at least able to bring in some history and remind those youngsters that there was other ways to advertise besides, Facebook and Google and stuff. But Yeah, hopefully it's all, it's all new, and the past is the past.
Well, the fact that you're asking for reappointment tells me that you're pretty tenacious.
Tenacious, I guess so. I feel like, I worked so long promoting tourism in Texas Panhandle, one of the biggest tourist attractions in the country, Texas Musical Drama. Was executive director for that and did all the marketing. Was in radio for a long time, several decades on that too. And then of course my degrees in broadcast advertising. There's too much up there just to let it sit and be dormant. If I can help this beautiful little community, bring in some more people, some more money, then I want to do it. I enjoy it. So
Good.
tenacious, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah, you're there. Thank you, Chris. Anybody have any more questions? We're done with you.
Wow, that was easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last time I talked to y'all was complaining about the earthquake, so we haven't had one of those.
Okay. See, we do listen.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Was Mr. Shepherd notified that he was to be at this meeting?
He told me he was coming. I'm surprised he wasn't here, so.
I believe so, Mayor. We do have some time for Mr. Shepherd.
Okay.
He still hasn't quite hit his year of residency. So had you interviewed him, we still wouldn't be able quite to see him. So we
Okay.
still have some time. We'll follow up with him.
Is it July that he?
I don't have the date in my head.
It's August.
End of July.
August?
Audra just reported the end of July.
Okay, all right. Thank you. You told me that and I forgot. I apologize. Okay, moving right along. Item 3, Clay Creek Solar Fund.
Good afternoon. We just wanted to bring forward, we know that we've got this. We brought forward the solar project back in February during our work session and just kind of wanted to do a refresh, just let you know we're still moving along. We finalized the land lease and the interconnection agreement is being finalized as we speak. We anticipate to bring that to City Council on July 15th. And we have Rick Dreigel on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and let him take over from here.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you and kind of go over, as Linda says, a refresher on the solar project. And this is really not much different than our discussions we had last in February. We have 4 sites that we're going to have built. 2, one in Trinidad and one in Los Angeles of 1.8 megawatts, and one in Lamar and one in La Junta of 4.8 megawatts. The company called Clay Creek LLC will be the owner, developer, and owner of those, and then ARPA will purchase all of the output from all 4 of those facilities, and that's going to be about 12% of our annual energy needs. The contract for that is a 25-year contract, and actually we signed that agreement back in January. So I don't know if you recall that when the new administration came in, they froze some of the funding for these kinds of projects. That funding was released here, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And since then, we've started to make a lot better progress on getting towards this. Now, in the handout you have, Linda told me you have a copy of that handout of the PowerPoint. I've got in there construction anticipated spring, summer of 2025. That's been pushed back, I believe, till probably summer, maybe early fall of this year. The reason being, in some discussions with some other utilities, Clay Creek is just finishing up, or they're constructing a solar facility of similar size in Fort Morgan. We're also working on one in Yuma and in Delta. They were ahead of us on the list, but we anticipate as soon as those are done that they'll be moving into one of our 4 communities. And I don't think it'll take too long once they get started for the construction of these. And be sure to interrupt me if you have any questions. I tend to kind of get on a roll with some of this, so be sure to give me a holler if you have any questions as we go through these. The cost of operations and maintenance is all at the seller's expense. We do have a fixed price on the output of the solar. It does have a 1.5% annual increase from the initial fixed price, but that's the only cost we have is just buying the output from it. Of course, your folks, your utility folks, and the developer will have on-site access and inspection rights. Then also in our purchase power agreement, and I believe it's in your lease agreement as well, that the seller is responsible for the decommissioning once the facility is retired. I think that's probably that's an important addition to these agreements. We've seen some of these earlier contracts, and it's really had to do with wind turbines where a decommissioning wasn't put into the contract, and the landowners kind of got stuck with that decommissioning. So we wanted to make sure we got that in our contracts. As Linda mentioned, the interconnection agreements, we're getting those finalized. And what we had with that is we hired CLP Engineering. We actually split the cost with Clay Creek on doing system impact studies. And what a system impact study is we wanted to make sure there wouldn't be any negative impact on Trinidad's or any of the other members' distribution systems. When we kick this online, when the solar comes online, we do not want that to disrupt any of your normal operations. And so we hired a CLP Engineering, which has done a lot of engineering for us in other aspects of our distribution system. So it was an engineering firm we're well acquainted with. And their study said that there was no negative impact on Trinidad's system. And if you'll notice, I believe it's on slide 4. Those are correct quotes out of the report we got from CLP Engineering. So we don't anticipate any issues. And one of the other elements of this that we're making sure of is once that solar comes online, we'll do a lot of commissioning and testing to make sure the protection for the solar and your distribution system all work well together. In other words, when your distribution trips offline, your distribution system, if it trips offline, we want the solar to trip offline as well. At the same time, if the solar trips offline, we don't want to necessarily have that trip you offline. So those kinds of studies will go on and commissioning just to make sure the two systems work well together. And again, we'll have CLP Engineering on site to help Dave and his crew work through that and make sure they're up to speed on operations and stuff like that. The cost of the upgrade, so we do have to do some upgrades to your system. They're really pretty minor. We have to have what's called a load break switch, where the solar attaches to your interconnects to your distribution system. We're getting bids. All 4 of the installations need those kinds of switches, so we're going to have to get bids on all 4 of them. The rest of the bill of materials necessary are just pretty standard stock items, and those cost the first $100,000 per site is Clay Creek's responsibility. Anything above that will be ARPA's responsibility. So we wouldn't anticipate Trinidad having any cost expense of this, of any of this project. And again, we'd be responsible for any cost that exceed the agreed amount of that $100,000 per installation. And CLP Engineering has come back with our study and said, we don't think it'll reach that amount. So we think that we're in pretty good shape as far as those interconnection costs are concerned. Now, as far as the benefit to ARPA, it's a competitively priced resource. Quite frankly, over time, it kind of evens out with our other power supply contracts, but it also helps our reduction in our carbon footprint, and it aligns with the state's renewable goals. And so I think, it's just a good project to have. It's not going to cost us any money. It's not going to impact our rates negatively. So I think it's going to be a good project for us. And again, since you're the owners of the land, you'll receive the lease payments. There will be some jobs during construction. So there's a good benefit to both of us on this. Now, one of the things we're going to start visiting with about at the board level is there is a provision, and I guess before I get into this, I just want to stop. So do you have any questions about kind of the development of the process and the size and any of that?
I think what we're doing, Mr. Ryle, is we're writing down questions. We'll let you continue and then ask the questions we have after your presentation.
That'll work great. That'll work great.
Thanks.
Yep. So anyway, there's a provision in our contract that would allow third parties, if you will, to purchase some of the output from these developments. So in other words, we could assign a portion of the output to Trinidad, if you wanted to do that. And so then you would be the owner of, direct owner of some solar generation that goes into your power supply. I've just had some initial discussions with the board. We haven't put that kind of program together yet, but it's a discussion we'll have in the next few months, just in case we have some members that are interested in wanting to have the ability to say that they do own portions of the solar installation. As Linda again mentioned, I think she said your lease is in good shape or in final form. We really didn't have a lot to do with that. We're not parties to that lease. We did review it to make sure that you would have all of our members would have the right to get onto the property. Trinidad and La Junta are both going to own the property, but in Lamar and Los Animas, the property is state-owned. So their leases are a little different as far as access and everything. But that's just something that we've been reviewing. We are in final design. Well, we've got the initial design for it's what's called a one-line diagram, and it identifies all of the equipment that will go onto the site. We have some questions that we put back to Sand Hills or Clay Creek, so we'll be following up on that. But right now, I think everything's just in pretty good shape, and we're continuing to move forward with getting these developments. And with that, I try to answer any questions or anything you might have.
There's about 50 questions.
I went ahead and cleared my afternoon, that's fine.
Mr. Trujillo, do you have any questions?
Actually, I don't think I do. We've gone over it a couple of times, and understanding that we're going to be the landowners here, correct?
Yes.
And we are just negotiating a lease agreement with this company to produce us some solar energy. So my other thing, trying to understand it, there was something I just wasn't too sure on that, where you said about a fixed price of a 1.5% annual increase. Is that, I'm not understanding that. If you could elaborate on that.
So when we do these kinds of contracts, it's typical that there will be an escalator in from either the developer or the power supplier. In our last contract we had that was just came to an end in February, I think we had like 2.3% escalator annual. escalator. So it's not unusual for these developers to build that into their pricing. We made sure that the pricing started competitively enough that that 1% was, wasn't really going to hurt us over time. But there is that, and that is very typical for these kinds of agreements.
Okay, and that's passed on to all the consumers, or
No, we'll blend that in with our rates.
with the rates for ARPA for us?
Yeah, we'll blend it in with our rates. Really, in our overall, in all of our power supply contracts, it really won't impact our final rate at all.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
That's it.
That's all I got.
Hi, Rick. Thank you for the
Hey.
presentation. Just out of curiosity, there's some manufacturers that they produce solar panels that are made out of monocrystalline, and they can generate power at night, which has like a 24% energy factor when you convert sunlight to electricity. Because most solar panels and solar farms they have a low capacity factor. Are these the Maxian kind of solar panels, Rick?
They are not the ones I don't believe they're the ones that will capture any of that generation at night. Now, we did have CLP review the equipment, and it's all name brand, meets all the IEEE requirements, top line equipment, but I don't know that I doubt if it's this newest monocrystal you call it, and quite frankly, you're up more on that than I am right now, so you have the advantage.
Well, most of them are made out of polycrystalline, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that's what these are. But I'd have to go back and check the standards on them.
Just out of curiosity.
Austin.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Aaron?
I don't know anything about what Elijah's talking about. But I'm just wondering, what's the footprint of this project? Like, how many acres will it be?
Linda or Dave, or maybe Tara, you might correct me, but I believe it's about 18 acres for Trinidad.
It's 16.
16? Yes, thanks, Dave.
And it's
And
just-
then quite frankly, that was kind of so the way we sized all of these, we want the consumption or the output to be consumed by the utility so that we don't have to get transmission agreements with the big transmission providers. Because that's a big lift to do that anymore. So we anticipate all this generation, all the output will be consumed by the utilities themselves. And one of the limiting factors was Trinidad on the 1.8 megawatt was the land size. And because you also needed to be close to a substation, you needed some things like that to be able to manage the cost. And so the area that Trinidad came up with met that. It's not quite as big a land area, but 1.8 megawatts, that's still a pretty good sized facility.
Okay, and it's gonna be just north of where is it gonna be?
Wastewater treatment
Wastewater
plant.
treatment, okay. I noticed that the presentation in the PowerPoint, it said something about jobs that will be created. There are not that many, but I'm wondering when those jobs will be available, what kind of training people need to have to get those jobs.
The construction is handled by Clay Creek LLC, and we don't have a construction start date yet. But once we do, we'll be sure to let everyone know.
Okay.
And I don't know, what their hiring facilities are, their hiring is. I wouldn't be surprised, though, to be honest, if they don't have these crews moving from site to site. But I don't know that for sure.
I'm just hopeful that it provides some training to some local people so that they can get involved with this industry. And then the decommission process, what does that entail?
Well, the biggest part of the decommissioning is is the disposal of the solar panels themselves, because they do have hazardous material in it. And so we wanted to make sure that, the company's responsible for not only removing that off of your land, but disposing of it properly as well. And so really, it's just a matter of carrying all those solar panels out and returning the ground to a previous condition.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
I have a couple of questions, pretty simple, because it is very detailed and it's in a field that none of us have any, I'm speaking for myself, I don't have any expertise in. But why are we just at 1.8 milliwatts when
Megawatts.
yeah, so why such a small output when the other two counties or cities are getting more?
It was because the land's available,
Oh, okay,
acres available.
okay,
To go to those 4.8, you need to be around that 30, 35 acres. And you didn't have available land that was near a substation and those kinds of details that was necessary for the interconnection.
that makes sense. Is it cost effective for the city to purchase or lease land for a solar generation? Is it cost effective to do that or not so much?
Well, I guess I would let your city go maybe answer that, but
Yeah,
I don't think you have any cost associated with that lease. I mean, it's my understanding, you'll get a monthly or annual payment for the use of your property.
okay. All right, just wondering. So if these solar panels are damaged by natural causes, will the city be responsible for repairing them?
No, that's all the responsibility of the developer, and they have specific energy targets that they have to meet on an annual basis.
Okay.
So if some of them are destroyed in a storm, they have to go back in and replace them to be able to meet their energy targets, or there are significant penalties for that. So it was a way that, not only for storm damage, let's say, but, they're pieces of equipment, and if they start having some failures, it'll be their responsibility to replace them and make sure they hit those energy output targets.
So I just need a little clarification. When you list here approximately 12% of ARPA energy requirements, is that for Trinidad or for the whole project?
That's all for all four of them combined.
Okay, all right. All righty, I have nothing. Anybody? Second chance? Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to clarify a couple of things based on the questions.
Okay,
In the meeting with Clay Creek, we did ask if there were any permanent jobs that would be relocating to the community, and there will not be. They will maintain them. They're developers that do these solar farms in many different states and all over, and they will be in and out of Trinidad. But they didn't know that anyone would permanently be relocating to the southeast. Mayor, we certainly could look at expanding at some point. I think, this preceded me, but it's probably smart to start with the land we already own.
right.
As Mr. Rigel suggested, the size of the farm was dictated by the land we had. And would it be cost effective to lease? Maybe in the future, if this is something that we really enjoy and like to go. Certainly we'll be tracking the ARPA board's discussion about the potential of assigning some of the solar to particular systems. And then just for clarification, as Ms. Vigil suggested, we're bringing this on the 15th. There'll be two separate documents for you to review. One is going to be a lease agreement between the City of Trinidad and Clay Creek for the development of the solar farm on the 16 acres. Mr. Downs has already reviewed that, and that is a particular agreement that's outside of ARPA. That's just between us and Clay Creek. Then the interconnection agreement, which Rick has sent to us and which we're looking at now, and that is how the system, our power system is going to be connected to the solar. And it's a three-way agreement between us, Clay Creek, and ARPA. And as Rick just alluded to, they paid for the cost of the study. The interconnection agreement is based on several things, such as cost of upgrades to our system is the responsibility of Clay Creek. They will replace the infrastructure that's damaged and maintain it. There is that part about if it has to be decommissioned. And they did determine in the study that Clay Creek paid for that there is no negative impact on our existing system and that we can handle it. So I think with that interconnection agreement, which is going to be really similar between the 4 jurisdictions, ARPA and Clay Creek, we're just doing final review. We should have that for you on the 15th. And I specifically want to thank Mr. Rigel, Mr. Bachicha, and Ms. Vigil for their work on this. Thank you.
How many generators, or wind generators are gonna be out there?
Wind, it'll be solar.
Oh,
and-
solar, that's
Yeah, that's
right.
okay. I had asked the same question, and Dave, they answered that in the meeting, and I can't remember how many solar panels there will be. Rick, do you
I'm
know?
just seeing if I can pull that up real quick.
Okay, we did ask them that, Mayor.
430, I believe.
How many?
430.
430.
430?
Wow. If you want a suntan, just head to the wastewater treatment plant.
I might,
Yeah.
okay. All righty, thank you, Mr. Wright.
We'll include that amount in our council communication, so you'll know.
Just before we move on, I just wanted to bring to council's attention that Rick Rigel just received a national award at the APPA. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Congratulations.
Quite honestly, the credit goes to the staff of our board, though. They keep me on the straight and narrow, so.
Spoken like a true leader, Mr. Wright.
Yeah, an award winner.
Yes. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Great, thanks.
Item number 4, Fox West Theater Grant Discussion.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. This is just a discussion for the Fox Theater, so I'll kind of run through the council communication, that way everyone knows where we're at. So in 2022, the City of Trinidad requested funding from DOLA for an Energy Impact Assistance Fund. The original request was for roughly $1.5 million. We requested be split between DOLA and the City of Trinidad, so it'd be 50-50. DOLA and then a city match, roughly. DOLA funded $600,000, and the city agreed to come with a balance, so that was closer to $900,000. And the contract was executed April 13th, 2023. The scope, to summarize kind of the scope of that project for that grant, it includes addition to the building, so there's going to be an actual addition to the Fox building. It's going to be on the north side of it, right here, right out in the parking lot, right outside City Hall. And it's going to upgrade mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, and the addition of a loading dock. The city put this this project out to bid in 2023. We received 2 responses. One was lacking a little bit, it didn't address everything, and the other one came in at $3 million, so it was about double the project's estimate. And then for discussion to see what we want to do, basically, just a little preference there. There's approximately $300,000 in the Colorado that we received in funds for Colorado revitalization grant. That's allocated for rehabilitation of buildings, so we still have about $300,000. That's a real rough number. Kind of still using that money, but that's going to be a number to work with. Yeah, and just want to open this up to council for discussion on some options moving forward. The first one is we could go forward with a $3 million project as it was bid out. That'd be including doing the enclosure, all the updates of the utility systems. And we would apply the $600,000 from DOLA, the 300,000 from the CRG grant, and then we would have to budget roughly $2 million, so it'd be $1 million in probably 2026, $1 million in 2027 in our CIP. We could also request an amendment for DOLA to change the scope a bit, and instead of doing an addition, we can move all those upgrades into the building. We'd probably utilize the third floor. I don't know if you guys have been in the building, but there's a ton of dressing rooms in there, and we could probably do some other architectural stuff to get still the same number of dressing rooms, but we could utilize all our mechanical upgrades in that third floor basement area. So that's probably, or that's what we work towards, probably to try to get the cost down to that 1.5 million. As far as the stage lift goes, I don't know, staff is still kind of going back and forth to see if, we'd like to keep it in to see if we maybe do it as an add-on to the bid, to see if we could maybe still fit that in there. So if we did that, we would have to move forward with the architect/engineer to rework the project scope. And this would mean hopefully getting that cost down to 1.5 million. Using the 600,000 from DOLA, the 300,000 from CRG, we'd be budgeting about $300,000 in 2026, 2027 through CIP to try to get this done. And then the third option is to return the funds back to DOLA, the 600,000. Like I said, just a discussion, give you guys an update on this grants and the building itself. So I've been working with city manager, so we're up for discussion, I guess.
Okay. Mr. Trujillo, I'll let you start.
Oh, again.
Questions first.
Questions first, okay. Let's start off with the most obvious. Returning the funding to DOLA means we kill the project completely, right? Or do we start over?
We lose 600,000 towards the project, so.
Dollars to the project, not killing the project, okay.
Mhm.
And then, just so as just an understanding would come from that, and then that would be our responsibility if we wanted to move forward?
It would, and there's nothing in the project scope that doesn't need to be done.
Oh, okay.
Just
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, all this is to get the building functional. Next year, 25 years, whatever future holds, this stuff has to happen.
Yeah, and for me, just so I get a clear understanding, I kind of know where my feelings are. I'll be honest, I don't want to see this go away. I really do agree with amending if we can, because it's just one of those things that you just go through in life in any project. Sometimes it's not going to work out exactly how you want. So I don't actually have any questions on it really. So adding the 300,000 to the CIP, is it feasible when we would reallocate when we do the budgets?
When we do the budget, we would request 300,000 in 26, 300,000 in 27, attempt to use the 300,000 from CRG, and then the 600,000 from DOLA, and that would come to 1.5 million. But as Mr. Mason alluded to, we would need to hire the architect to redesign the project inside. We believe we can pay for that with the existing CRG money.
Okay.
Not the 300, but we actually have 436 in CRG.
Yeah, that's why that 300 is a real rough
Thank you.
number, because we have a little bit of best as big action. We're going to try to move into that 436 as well as the redesign if we move forward with that. So
If we move forward, we need a little bit of that 436.
And do we qualify for the extension up to till 2028?
As long as we're moving the grant along,
Okay.
we have to start moving it to qualify for an extension.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Nick. Well, Terry answered one of my questions. How much money is actually in capital improvements do we have every year that we can do that for how many years?
Generally, capital improvement generates approximately 2.4 million a year.
Okay.
That's based on the 1% sales tax over the past few years.
Okay, and Nick, option one was the $3 million bid out?
yeah, just moving forward as is. So we did bid it out. Once we received the bids, we were kind of like, oh man, that's double the cost.
Right.
That's an issue. But we could move forward with it. they're pretty solid bids. You probably have to rebid it because they've been quite a while now. But we have designs for it.
Is that an accurate guesstimation?
Yeah, they were very accurate. These are bid ready to go out to construction, so they were.
But we would rebid it because that was
We,
2020.
yeah, we'd go forward. And $3 million probably still a good guess, if not a little more.
No backing out, our feet are too wet.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
The
drenched.
cement's drying. Think about it.
Go ahead, Aaron, I'm caught in between.
Once again, it's not a
No.
decision today, just a discussion. So we can come back to you with a decision item.
I like the ongoing payment every year, which is good. But I think in the future, we're gonna just keep paying and paying because there's other things that are going to materialize that we're gonna have to
Yes.
rectify
Yes,
and improve on.
true.
So, okay.
We've been talking about this for years now, and I think one thing that would help me to evaluate, all of us to evaluate, is if this alternate work plan is approved and we spend this money, how close are we then to making it a usable facility? Are we still several years out? How much more money is it gonna take? Those are questions that come to mind. When, years ago, when we were talking about this project in its original scale, I recall that there was an addition that would be on the west side of the building that was to accommodate space for people to congregate based on the number of people who could be sitting in the auditorium. And then I heard something along the way that we're not doing that anymore, and I don't know why we're not, but I just need a clear idea of what will this do for us if we go forward with this amended idea, and how close are we at that point?
I think we can give you some pretty high-level information. We have not crunched the numbers. There was a $2.2 million proposal that would be in addition to this work that did fire suppression and did handicapped accessible restrooms, and those are both going to be needed to open the main auditorium. We're not talking about the balcony or the gallery, just the main auditorium. That proposal that was put forward suggested that could be done for $2.2 million. I don't know that I'm confident in that number. That's certainly something we don't mind bringing forward in a future work session. So in other words, if we bring it forward in a future work session, it would be, here's what we've done and what we've spent. Here's what we're currently doing, what's open, and the grants that we have and what their scope is. And here's what's remaining to open the auditorium. And we would need to bring you costs that we were a little more confident in. What's bringing this to the surface right now is that this grant has been open for 2 years, and DOLA is asking us to make a decision on which way we want to go. And this is the scope that was decided in 2022. So we need to decide on this particular scope and grant. And I apologize that may be a little ahead of answering all those questions that you have, but this is the situation we're in now. So we're gonna try, and we've told DOLA we'll resolve this one way or another in July.
And it's critical work that has to be done.
It is regardless.
Okay,
regardless.
the CRG grant, does it have the same deadline or a different one?
It has a 2026 December deadline. So if we're going to use it as a match, we need to move that along.
Okay. That's all I have.
That's it. I was never a fan of that annex building on the site. I think that was Dana's vision, but it wasn't mine, because I think it took away from the original structure the way it was. And if we can do away with that, I have no problems with that. I just never could envision that building with the side building on it, but.
Excuse me, I want to just make sure I understand. Nick, you had said that
So-
the addition we were talking
so
about was going
the-
to be on the
yeah,
north side.
This addition would be right here outside on the north side of the building, actually. It'd be probably a 2-story-ish addition. So it's not the big one that
Right.
you're referencing.
It's
That
a
one
different
was,
one.
yeah.
The
It is
one
a
that she
separate
had was in between the Safeway parking lot and the Fox.
Yes.
She was gonna have a couple apartments in there and all kinds of stuff, but, you know, things change, and when I first started in 2018, things were different in Trinidad as they are, than they are now, but I think this is a piece of architecture that's really unique to the country, not alone to the community, and I think we owe it to ourselves to continue renovating this. And, you know, going forward, look at the size of that building. If we don't renovate it and maintain it, we're gonna have an opera house over here. And how much is that gonna cost?
One of the questions that Nick and I asked Gregory in preparation for this discussion was if we moved all of the mechanical into the building, into the sub-basement, do we lose any of the theatrical operation factors that we would want if we ever wanted to operate this as live theater? And we moved that mechanical in, would we lose that ability to do that? And I think Gregory was pretty clear with us that we would not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the sub-basement, is there a level under the ballroom?
So this is actually under the stage.
Okay.
So you go down the stage, there's a second level, and there's some dressing rooms in there, and it's actually open. The middle's open, which is kind of hard because then the stage is like really high up. You can't actually get like a trapdoor type thing. You
Okay.
can't use that. And then there's another set of stairs that takes you down to the third level down below.
Okay.
Yeah, so that it's a heck of a building.
Well, yeah.
It's
It's
significant.
amazing.
I'm getting pretty good at it though.
Good. You sound like an expert to me. When you talk about not doing the uplifting of the stage right away, could we do that if somewhere down the line?
Definitely, we'd have to. But I think I would like to see it as maybe an addition, because if we move all this stuff in, we're hoping that we'll get a really favorable number on a bid. Then maybe we could add that in and be an add-on, an add alternate to the bid to say, okay, yeah, this is going to cost you $300,000, or it's going to cost you $1 million, and we're going to say, okay, yeah, we can't do that one. But that's what kind of where I was leaning. But we'd have to work with DOLA if they were amenable to us even taking it out, or if they were, dead set that has to be in, or if they say, oh yeah, that is a expense that could really change project scope. So.
Well, I for one do not want the Fox West project to go away. I think we need to continue. There's a saying that people that are getting divorced say it's cheaper to keep her. I think that applies to Fox West. It's cheaper to renovate her than it is to tear her down, especially right in the middle.
If what we hear you saying is that you would like to entertain option 2.
Yes.
Then the next step is Mr. Mason will work with DOLA, and we will bring on July 1 a letter requesting from the mayor will sign, so we'll be asking council to authorize the mayor to sign a letter to request an amendment from DOLA, and that's the next step. And that amendment will be to re-engineer the project inside the building.
Do I have any objection to that?
No.
Okay. Okay. Looks like we're on the same page, Mr.
Thanks,
Mason.
Yeah, thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
All righty. The last item is staff reorganization.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to bring this forward as an information item, and you'll see me do this periodically throughout the coming years. We recently had a retirement, and that gives an opportunity to look at all the jobs associated with that department and ask the question, are we deploying the resources exactly the way we would like to? Are we accomplishing the goals that we have set for this department? So basically, this reorganization is budget neutral, and I'm going to walk through the step on that. What I'm suggesting reorganizing is the Welcome Center, the Space to Create facility, our tourism activities, our communications and our community relations activities. So we've taken 5 existing job descriptions. That's the Colorado Welcome Center Manager, the Colorado Welcome Center Assistant Manager, the Tourism and Community Outreach Manager, the Creative Main Street Coordinator, and a Communications Coordinator. So those are 5 existing job descriptions. Currently, 1 job is vacated due to retirement. The other 2 of the jobs are currently filled, and 1 job has been vacant for some time. So what I'm suggesting is, out of these 5 job descriptions, 3 new job descriptions. They combine the activities that are associated within these 5 job descriptions. The 3 new job descriptions will be Colorado Welcome Center Manager, who will be assuming all of those duties, the duties of the Assistant Manager, or some of them, and then also some of the travel center. So that will be responsibility for the building across the bridge, all the volunteers that operate there, the gift shop that's operated out of that location, as well as the gift shop that's operated out of the Space to Create facility, as well as the trolley and the tourism van. So that's what I'm proposing that job would be responsible for. The second one would be the Space to Create and Tourism Coordinator. That job would be based at Space to Create. That job would be responsible for the entire Space to Create facility. That means if you want your graduation party there next May, you will sit down with this person and sign the contract. They will also be responsible for the rentals, activities, and calendar at Space to Create facility, which, by the way, we're hosting a wonderful conference for 150 county treasurers today, so they're all in town and down at the facility all week. They'll also be responsible for the Lodging Tax Advisory Board, which we're filling up right now, and the marketing contract that's related to tourism. And we discussed this at the meeting the other night. Right now, that's a $299,000 contract. And then they'll be responsible for the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission and the Public Art Program. So this is the second job to be created. The third job is Communications and Community Relations Coordinator. This will be based at Space to Create. This will be responsible for press releases and media relations, for protocols for websites and social media. You may or may not realize this. We have 9 disparate social media accounts that the city or its associated boards is managing at any given time. And they vary from the fire department all the way through to the creative district. So it's not really feasible that one person manage all of that, because one person isn't carrying that information in their head. But we do need backups and protocols and things like that for how we communicate. This person will also work directly for the city manager in tracking legislative issues. You may remember we've had a lobbyist in the past, and one of the main things that contract has done is track legislative issues. Some of you are involved with CML's policy meetings. This would be my arm toward that legislative issue. And then responsible for community outreach. So say we needed to get together a group of stakeholders to talk about lodging tax, or we needed a group of stakeholders to talk about transportation, or we needed a group of stakeholders to talk about the school's request for funding for a new football field. This person would be coordinating that community outreach. And then finally, they'd be responsible for Creative District and Main Street. So we've worked really hard to look at all 5 of those job descriptions, to pare down what was unnecessary, to eliminate any overlap, and to create 3 distinct jobs, 2 at Space to Create and 1 at the Welcome Center, that cover that breadth of responsibility. There are 2 existing employees in those positions, and they do plan to apply for these new jobs, as they will be posted. Starting tomorrow, we will post the first one. Next Monday or Tuesday, we'll post the second, and the next Monday or Tuesday, we'll post the third. So I'm looking forward to future reorganizations, but I wanted you to know this is the first. Finally, all 3 of these current positions that I'm talking about, all the current positions that the 5 job descriptions make up, collectively represent $72.11 per hour. Were we to pay all 3 of the new positions at the very maximum posted hourly rate, that would be $73 per hour. So from 72.11 to 73, assuming we post them, assuming we offer all 3 at the very maximum rate. So I wanted to call out and make it very clear that this is a budget neutral departmental reorganization. We're not tapping into new funds. We're not creating new jobs and giving excessive raises. These jobs will be priced with appropriate experience for each one. So you may have questions. Oh, additionally, the Colorado Welcome Center job will be compensated from the tourism fund. The Space to Create and Tourism Coordinator will be compensated from the Economic Development Fund. And the Communications and Community Relation job will be compensated from the General Fund. And then just as a final note, that in addition to the budget neutral, there are additional revenue streams that are being generated by these jobs. One is the gift shop at both Welcome Center and Space to Create. That's generated $5,500 so far this year in the short amount of months, the 5 months, first 5 months. And then of course rental fees for revenues for Space to Create. So that being the primary responsibility of one of these jobs, we'd like to see those continue to increase. Do you have questions or comments for me?
I do, with one thing, I think the reason that we had a Welcome Center and then another office here was because we had a tourism director and an assistant, or not tourism, but Welcome Center manager and an assistant, and there needed to be 2 places for that. With just one, do we need 2 places? Have you thought about that?
So we've thought about that, going back, I have a history with the Welcome Center, so we've always had a Welcome Center manager and an assistant Welcome Center manager. And for a long time, those were both housed at the Colorado Welcome Center. When Ms. Hackett was moved down to Space to Create, she kept the title Welcome Center manager, and we added some tourism duties and some event planning duties, and the gentleman at the Welcome Center was the assistant manager. Similar to when I was there, I came into City Hall to do the Best and Brightest internship, but retained the title Welcome Center manager, and we had an assistant Welcome Center manager. So we'll see if we're able to do it this way. The gentleman who's been operating as the assistant Welcome Center manager, quite honestly, has been doing the job of the Welcome Center manager for some time. And the only things he'll be picking up are the trolley and tourism van, which he primarily was already managing, and then the management of the gift shops.
Okay.
So those will be additional responsibilities. We do also have a couple of secondary programs where we are working with the senior organization to employ some seniors, and they're both running the gift shop downtown and the gift shop at the Colorado Welcome Center. So we're certainly open to looking at those types of things.
Where will each, other than the Welcome Center, where will the other 2 be housed at Space to Create? Where will their offices be?
The Space to Create and Tourism Coordinator will inhabit the space Marty Hackett used, and the Communications and Community Relations will be in the fishbowl.
Okay. And which one of those positions again is responsible for overseeing operations at Space to Create?
The one in the Creative District Space to Create office.
Okay. It seems like maybe the fish, and I'm not questioning, I'm just saying the way that it typically, it seems like it has been running is to have someone who has eyeballs on what's going on all the time, being responsible for scheduling.
Respectfully, from an operational standpoint, I'll manage that as I need to go forward. But I understand your question. Yeah, mostly what I was trying to get your feedback on is, well, I mostly wanted you to be aware, I guess, that this is the route I'm taking, that you're not surprised by the postings, that you understand it's budget neutral, and that you understand I'll be bringing forward future. And so it's kind of a dance between us. I don't know that I'm really asking for feedback as much as I am just letting you know what's going on informationally.
I'm trying to just get a picture of how it's gonna work more than
Right.
get information, but I had one last question.
Sure.
Since I'm the liaison to arts and culture, will I no longer have that role since somebody else is?
I think we're gonna talk about whether or not we should have city council liaisons. I'm very interested in a staff liaison to boards.
Okay.
But that'll be a future discussion as that impacts you.
Got it, thanks.
And I haven't talked with our city attorney about it yet, but we'll be talking about that.
Okay.
Yep.
Eli?
Tara, when will the postings close? Is that just going to?
So I'm staggering them week by week so that I can do interviews on various different weeks. So we'll start with the communications and community relations position tomorrow.
Okay, and on the Welcome Center, you know, our wonderful volunteers, you ever
Mhm.
thought about a small stipend at the end of the year?
We do several different wonderful things, but one of the things we'll look at, and I'm glad Councilmember DeBono, you brought that up, and maybe I'll have some more information on us getting back in the state program at some point in time, but a pretty robust volunteer enhancement program is generally, I think, the way we want to go there. We do a nice holiday party for them, but it'd be great if we could do a throughout the year volunteer enhancement program. And I would say that the current staff, city staff that operates the Welcome Center has partnerships all over town. I attended their meeting this last Thursday, and I know Walmart does a cake for them every month, and we have various other local businesses that donate their goods or services to the Welcome Center. I know they see a theater play every year, and I know they do several other
A lot of
different
nice
things.
perks.
So we have a lot of community members that support Welcome Center volunteers. But we are going to kick off, once we get this new position in place and we get through budget, you're gonna see a couple of things in budget this year for volunteer enhancement, but also for a marketing and recruitment campaign to recruit volunteers.
Very good,
I think we have 28 now. We'd love to be back in the high 30s,
okay.
get about 10 more. They recorded the current assistant manager talking about the volunteer experience at the meeting the other day for social media, so I know that the volunteer recruitment campaign has launched.
They're so well versed. It's
They
like
are.
going to Disneyland. They'll tell you
They
exactly what.
Yes, I got many suggestions on how the Welcome Center should be staffed and run from the meeting the other day. It was great.
Perfect. Okay.
Mr. Trujillo?
Thank you. No, it looks great.
Okay.
Just going over it, I think it looks fantastic. The only question that I had, and is more of an observation, because I'll probably be asked for that when they're posted.
Yeah.
We will have coverage on Saturdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, so the weekends will be covered at Welcome Center and Space to Create.
So the Welcome Center position during the summer is a Sunday through Thursday position. And then we have volunteers that are really experienced, as well as the senior staff I mentioned on Friday and Saturday. The Space to Create and Tourism manager, and I didn't read it, coordinator out of here, that's gonna be a Tuesday through Saturday job. And we will have coordinated time on Sunday if we need that. And then if the communications and community relations person is at Space to Create on Monday, then they'll cover any walk-in traffic. That's nice. So we are, yeah.
Thank you.
Some of these jobs aren't Monday through Friday jobs when you work in the areas of tourism and facility management, especially when the bulk of the activities happen on the weekend. So these job postings will reflect that.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I know you've done your due diligence, that's for sure. And all these recommendations are great. I need to ask you a question though. So if we get back with the city, not the city, the state tourism, what benefit is that to us?
Well, back when I was the Welcome Center manager, I think the contract was anywhere from $65,000 to $90,000 a year. It paid for at least one of the salaries, so that might be the way to pay for an assistant manager. It did put $5,000 to $7,000 in volunteer enhancement. And right now, we're doing everything that all the Colorado Welcome Centers are doing around the state with a $0 contract. So the gentleman that is our assistant manager is collecting for me the amount in the contract from each location, so that I'll be up to speed on what the current amount is, and we do have a meeting in July.
Do you know why we didn't hadn't done it? And then
I'll
That's
let the
a
city
great
attorney
story.
answer that one.
It was a personality conflict, right? I mean,
With the state?
Mr. England
Yeah,
decided
Gabe
we,
England.
Oh.
we didn't
Right.
need that contract anymore.
and wanted to show that he was in control, and yeah, it was,
I think Mr. Taylor was gonna turn it into a local economic development
yeah,
office. There was a lot of, I don't know.
dark days, dark days. Yeah, really, you know, yeah.
That's my best recollection. I don't
Okay.
really know the details of what that conversation was.
I can elaborate, but I won't.
The
Okay.
city attorney can elaborate
That's
for
right,
you.
we'll do so.
No,
Off the
that's
record.
enough.
As he was in those conversations.
I will tell you that I've talked to a couple of event venues in town,
Yeah.
and it seems like their activity in their space isn't as good as Space to Create. So I think that space is getting used and will continue to be used efficiently.
We hope.
We hope.
We hope.
All right. I have nothing else. Anything?
Thank you.
No?
Good job.
All righty. You guys have a good time at CML. I
Thank you.
want a
Thank
5-page report from
Yeah.
everybody that goes.
10.
That's a page for each of us.
Manny will do it.
Yeah.
And 8 pages for Manny and 2 for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll write your guys'.
If we could get